Hey everybody, Jesse Sargent here, and I'm fortunate enough to be here with Trent Vaden of CAI here at DCAC. So looking forward to having a great conversation and happy to have you here, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Jesse. This is awesome, man. DCAC always does it right. That's like I said, it's one of the most elite networking events of the year. Always a good time. You guys put on a good show and bring a lot of talent together, but also it's heavy duty influencers and decision makers, and a lot of the people that move and shake things in this industry, which is just exciting to be a part of. So.
Man, I appreciate that. It's this year especially has been awesome because normally we've been in the 8 to like 900 range for attendees, and I want to say this year we were right at or a little over like 1,300. So good year. But yeah. Man, so you and I have known each other for quite a while, and what it goes back to like Align days.
It
right?
does, yeah. When I was with Comrade coming in the industry, this kind of speaks to what you guys ultimately turned into with Overwatch and helping people transition from one section of life into the data center industry. But I can remember you and Kirk when I was at Comrade, and I was slinging load banks, and just started doing my LinkedIn homework and figuring out some of the hotbed areas and who to call on. And you guys were a little higher up than signing off the POs for load banks at that point, but I just was calling everybody. And I remember calling you or Kirk or both of you guys over the course of a week or so, and like, hey man, it's Trent Vaden with Comrade. Who? Trent Vaden, Comrade. I'm doing load banks. And to y'all's credit, never once were like, God, that's way beneath me at this point, or a little farther down the chain. No, you guys were very, very helpful to say, okay, appreciate you reaching out. Here's who you want to be talking to with regards to where load banks come in the life cycle of data centers. So helped me transition into the data center industry for my early foray. So like I said, helping folks and transitioning folks into this industry it's not just an Overwatch mission. You guys have lived that since the beginning, I feel like, which is really cool.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, we have two exponential threats to our industry, and it's people and power. Mm-hmm. And getting people into the space is critical. And honestly, I mean, you're an example of it. Like, I came out of the military, went and learned a little bit of HVAC, and then somebody was like, "You want to go build data centers?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what that is, but yeah, I'm in." Right. And it just goes to show, like, anybody can come in here, and if you have the right work ethic, I mean, the sky's the limit. And so you're at CAI now. Yep. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So full scale commissioning. We consider ourselves data center services firm, not just data center commissioning, but it was a natural sort of transition to come from the load bank industry, where the mission critical testing equipment comes in during the commissioning phases. So I'd seen a lot of L4, L5 stuff being done at that time with bringing in the equipment. So when I was with Comrade, we were doing some great things. We inked a big deal with Microsoft to do their fleet management agreement and procure all their load banks, sort of store them and do all the QA/QC and go through. So that was a really big deal for us. And then Sunbelt, those guys are fantastic. Give those dudes a shout.
100%. I love Aaron.
Yeah, he's a fantastic guy. Aaron, Steve, Jeremy, all those guys, man. And then so Sunbelt came and purchased Comrade. And so we're doing some of the alignment stuff and getting everybody sort of where they were going to be sitting in new regions and under new hierarchy structure. And a lot of seats, or a lot of heads with not too many seats on the life raft when you pull those two companies together.
Sure.
So we're going to kind of move around, and I wanted to stay specifically in the data center and mission critical space. And CAI had a spot opening for the business development director, so it was sort of a natural transition to move over and make sure everybody was taken care of at Sunbelt as well. So we still have a great relationship with those guys, man. It's awesome to be able to bring load banks into scope on the commissioning side, and then be able to tap into some of my good buddies over there, and I always have the equipment available, and they really do, man. They take care of everything from yard equipment and outdoor stuff and the heavy machinery
Oh, yeah.
all the way down to the last minute. So
no, definitely. I mean, and two things. One, people don't realize how there are just so many critical components that go into not just building a data center, but commissioning it, getting it ready to operate, having it being ready for a client. I mean, there's so many avenues that you can come into this industry, and the thing that I love the most, and it's what you were saying too, like even though maybe you were going to do something different, you still want to stay in data centers, right? And I've always been the same way. I mean, I started out as a mechanical contractor, was a GC, was an owner's rep, worked as an owner operator, and now with Overwatch, like they're just, whether it's safety, cost control, scheduling, I mean, the list goes on and on of just all the opportunities that are in this space. And people don't realize when we talk about like that, one of the exponential threats being labor, right? I'm sure you guys go through it a lot too. I mean, trying to get people to come into this space for some reason, because it's still not, quote unquote mainstream, right? It's difficult. But what I feel like people don't realize or understand is like, there's not anything we do in life anymore that doesn't run through a data center.
Ordering a pizza.
100%.
I think that's, if you go back and see something, the very first item that was processed through a data center was ordering a pizza. I'm not sure if it was Domino's or Papa John's or something like that, but that was the very first kind of like action that went through.
That is wild.
Which is crazy. As the internet was born in Ashburn. But yeah, we get to see so many things on the commissioning side. Again, whether it's contractors, vendors, the end users, owners, operators, like I said, the scheduling and the logistics and stuff that goes into from breaking ground to delivering IST. It's wild how many people touch that life cycle and how many various vendors. But so at CAI, we're really about a rigorous approach and like early risk mitigation. So being involved early is gigantic to help everybody stay on that schedule and hit those milestones. And it's fantastic. I really like the way the CAI approaches that, like I say, with that very rigorous approach and wanting to be involved early on. And as you said, the amount of people it takes, and labor is always going to be finding good talent and keeping good talent is a paramount importance when you do this stuff. I've actually talked to Loudoun County Community College and then Central Piedmont Community College, because as you said, it's not so mainstream yet. So there aren't a whole lot of degrees that are like focused toward the data center industry. Well, there's tons of classes, a few. But I mean, I've been wanting to get into and get Josh or myself to get some speaking opportunities, because I think young people need to understand how lucrative and rewarding a career in this can be, and not at all discounting a college degree anymore.
Not at all.
But you can learn everything you need to learn really quickly coming out of high school or a 2-year associate's degree, and find a spot. And then you said it's just sort of, we continue to run into the same names and same people, whether they're with the company they started with or their second or third company. But once people get into this industry, it gets its hooks in you, and you 100%. Realize you don't want to leave, because it's a ton of great people, ton of fantastic backgrounds, all walks of life, and it's just, like I say, it's a really rewarding career to be in. And as the internet and social media and everything keep evolving, I think it's important to have good people in positions to sort of try to keep the moral compass.
Oh no, definitely.
Because it can get a little hairy out there. As with, my son's 8 years old now, and he's starting to enjoy all the screen time, which we try to limit. But it's it's a wild west out there, still to a degree. So having good people in places to kind of gatekeep some of this stuff is really important going forward.
Well, and so I have little kids as well, right? And the limiting the screen time thing, it's harder and harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, now,
because their homework's done online.
that's exactly what I was going to say. Like I remember, getting sent home with 15 papers you had to do that night, right? Like my kids sit down at the table and they open up their computer when they start working on stuff. And I have a 6-year-old son, and this kid at 6 years old is better on an iPad and better playing Fortnite than I could ever be. You know what I mean? And it's just interesting the way that, I consider this a blessing, actually, right? Like I was born at the perfect time, in my opinion. When I was born, there was no cell phones, there was no internet, there was no anything like that. So like the first, 15 years of my life was outside, home when the lights came,
that's right.
The street lights came on, the whole drinking out of a garden hose thing, right? But then, about my freshman year, I think was when, maybe a little bit before my freshman year, you started to see like Nokia cell phones and stuff, like where you bought the phone card and bought minutes. And, it's just to think for me, that was, 20 plus years ago now, but just how much has changed. And then I think about like my grandparents, right? Like we were talking earlier about, data consumption and everything like that. And please, nobody fact check me because I'm definitely going to butcher this, but there is some crazy stat out there, but sometime in the 2000s, right? So if you took every picture from the invention of the camera until sometime in the 2000s, and then that time in the 2000s till now, we have exponentially more just from the 2000s to now.
2 decades.
In 2 decades, that's a good way to put it. In 2 decades, we've taken more photos than were taken from the invention of the camera until 2 decades.
And I have no idea when the camera was invented, but you're talking hundreds of years.
Yeah, sometime in the 1800s, I think.
That's wild, dude.
It is. It's crazy to think about. But you were mentioning like people in the space and everything like that. Like one thing I love about like DCAC and other conferences within the space, but really this one is like you get an opportunity to go and see a lot of people that you haven't seen in a while. And I'm sure it's the same way for you. I mean, I can't remember the last time you and me ran into each other, but like the people in this industry are genuinely my friends. Do you know what I mean? Like we spend so much time at work and focusing on work that these people just become your friends. You know what their families are doing, you know what's going on. And it really makes it to where you don't want to leave the space. Right.
Exactly. No matter what event it is, in whatever city around the country, I know people who live there permanently, and I've become friends with their wives, and like in Austin here, for example, I go see Curtis out at the house all the time. I go see Joanna, and it's just really cool that to, like I said, make genuine friends in this industry. So my wife will give me a hard time. She's like, "You're just going to go." Going to a conference, you're going to see so-and-so and go so-and-so. Like, yeah, you're darn right I am. And that makes work not so, work laden, because we're getting a bunch done. It'll make for some late nights when you get back to the hotel, and that's when work starts, right?
That's right.
After some good networking, and you're talking directly with people you're going to be working on projects with. But and I get home and it makes the whole absence makes your heart grow a little fonder. So I get home and have some great time with the family. And it's, I think my role in commissioning and seeing how everybody has to work so well together for the success of a project has bled into my personal life. Because you can't just see it from your own perspective. You got to put yourself in the contractor's shoes, the vendor's shoes, the owner, operator's shoes, and try to see everything from their perspective, so that to make sure that we're all in it for the same reason, right? To deliver an operational ready facility and serve society the best way we can. So I get home and something frustrates me a little bit from my point of view at home. I will, because of how I have to carry myself in my day-to-day work life, I get home and it's like, all right, let me see it from Ian's shoes. Let me see it from Allison's shoes. Let me see it from my parents' shoes. It's honestly maybe a better husband, father, son, brother, everything, man.
For sure. I like what you said too. Like, one thing that I like about this industry that I think is different from a lot of other verticals is, it's not a bad thing in the data center industry to do exactly what you just said and have experience in multiple different facets of this, right? Like, I mean, by far the most well-rounded person on my team is Nathan Daly, and I think you know him. He, master electrician, so he's been an electrical contractor. He was a GC. He's been an owner's rep. He was a commissioning agent. You know what I mean? And like, that matters. Like, when you're able to sit at a table with people that you can have compassion for the things that they're going through, but yet also have the experience and the knowledge base to be able to help them drive a solution. Like, that's how you have successful programs. You know what I mean? And it's always been something that I have really enjoyed about this industry. And quite frankly, like, me and Kirk have talked about, where it's like, I will do this, and this goes to what we were talking about, so long as I'm having fun, right? And in the last 12 years, I can't think of a day that I've woke up that I was like, God, I got to go to work today. You know what I mean? Like, I genuinely love what we do.
Correct.
And I believe that majority of the people in this space, like probably well over the majority, feel exactly the same way.
Right.
And I think that's why you have such a good time and everything like that. But let's go back to CAI for a minute. You mentioned something a second ago about, getting involved early and everything like that. And, it's funny how much things have changed over like the past 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, 10 years ago, it was like, all right, well, I don't need the commissioning agent yet. Like, they'll come in towards the end and everything like that.
Check some boxes.
Yeah, exactly. But, it has gotten to the point where, these things are so complex and the things that we're building that I prefer to have the commissioning agent in early, because it just, I've found you run into a lot less issues at the end, right? And I have a saying that slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right? And we all know, it's a speed to market game and everything like that. And so, bringing people in at the right time, and even if there's not an abundance of work at the beginning, just having the ability to have a smooth process all the way through ultimately leads to a faster product delivery.
Right. And as we take on a number of projects that are, ongoing at the same time, sure, I'm not going to maybe not plant somebody there for 18 months, but you're going to run to this site for a while during to go do some factory witness testing. Let's make sure that all the equipment is operating as designed before it leaves the factory. Then, set in place, get it to the site. Obviously, first of con checklists and make sure everything's working there. Then that's obviously when you get into some of the construction stuff. And then, all the mechanical set in place ahead of the electrical. But again, it can be, my guys can go to one job for a week and work on that, and then I won't see you again for 2 months.
Right.
Obviously, we'll be on meetings and calls, but our heavy involvement obviously happens more toward the end of the life cycle. But having all that interaction early allows us to execute at a very elite level. And planning is key. Planning is king. Planning is the crucial. So, as you said, it's early involvement and it's communication, man. Communication is key, and it's just got to be total buy-in from all aspects. And like I said, that doesn't have to be just nonstop 40 hours a week at a job early on, but it's just involvement at different levels. It's just gigantic. And that's really what CAI's approach is. Anything we can identify early on will make the back end, like I said, smooth is slow and slow is fast.
Definitely. Are you guys
slow is smooth?
Yeah. Are you guys finding that more and more clients are buying into that?
Yes,
and that,
absolutely.
They see the value in it.
That's right. It's becoming if you want to get your Curtis's DCI or IDCA guys, that they're doing the efficacy score ratings and G ratings of data centers, and you have to have that third party validation to come in, and that's what's going to drive your score rating and efficacy score, which it varies depending on if you're building a government data center or just a going into a fiduciary institution and kind of building an internal data center for them.
Right.
You need different levels and different score ratings, obviously, but we're the value that truly elite commissioning agent brings is much more recognized, I think, now than, like say, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Where, for you guys, where are you guys sourcing most of your people? Like, are you guys getting a lot of people out like the military and college, or are you finding it is more people like moving around within the space?
So we base our thing off the Navy nuclear model, right? And that's what everybody, this seems like there's a lot of that going on in this industry. And it's a great thing to have civilian life, work-life balance for those people coming out of the military, and where they can apply their principles and knowledge into this. So, I mean, as well as I do, I'm not a veteran myself, but checklists and processes save lives where these guys come from.
Yep.
And so we do tend to look there as our first source. We also have CAI has a big pharma and life sciences presence as well, which is still done under the Navy nuclear model. But we have a ton of agents over there that are finding themselves wanting to get into the data center space because it's a little more dynamic.
Sure.
And it's not all clean rooms and white spaces for the manufacturing of drugs and whatnot. But it's the principles apply and move around. But we will find some people that will be at an EC or an MC or a GC that want to come over and get into the commissioning because they see that side of it and the ability to kind of move around and see different sites in different parts of the country. It's sort of a mixed bag, and we've done some work with you guys with Overwatch guys, and you guys have put together a wonderful program to, like I said, transition people in. So those guys are well prepared and have a really solid background. So, like I said, good talent's hard to find. It can be hard to find. So we're not picky from where that good talent comes from.
We've found, especially the Navy nuke or like your Air Force Power Gen Pro guys, those guys just do a phenomenal job in commissioning operations type roles because like you said, they're very, if you're on a nuclear submarine and you're, 500 feet underwater, 1,000 feet underwater, and you turn the wrong valve, right? That becomes a compressed can real quick, right? And then, so like we have found that those type of technical roles within the military translate perfectly into commissioning and operations because, like you said, it's very checklist, SOP oriented,
right?
And then we have found that combat roles within the military make phenomenal project managers.
That's some quick decision making.
It is, and it's also like I will never forget. I had the privilege to work for Andrew Shapp for a couple years at Line Data Center, and he was real upset one day because I wasn't like freaking out and real upset about something, with some issues we were having or whatever. And I said, I'm not getting shot at. Nobody's gonna die today. Everybody's gonna go home. Like, this is a problem we can figure out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so we found that, having, combat type roles within the military where you're used to, you still have, your SOPs and your checklists and everything like that. But, Mike Tyson put it best. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. Right. And it's very similar in that regard where it's like, project managers, they get punched in the face a lot. We talked about how complex these programs are, how many moving parts there are, and your project managers are really responsible for coordinating and trying to keep everyone on the same page when it comes to those things, and having the ability to approach everybody in a calm manner and say, hey, let's get the right people in the room. Let's have a conversation. Like, we can figure these problems out. And we found that they do a really good job with that. So it's just like, I don't think people understand, and you were hitting on it a little bit earlier, like you don't need a master's in computer science to build data centers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you know, we like to say this industry is not lacking in genius and intelligence, right?
Or people that will tell you how smart they are.
Exactly. It may lack in leadership and courage in
Yeah.
some areas sometimes, and you know, military people, that's what they're bred to do.
Right. I'm excited to hear the keynote today.
Yeah.
He's the sniper. The
Yeah.
names escape me right now, but I think his topic is going to be just the leadership.
Yeah.
A touch on leadership.
It's Mike Sorelli.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
it.
Yeah.
So
Mike's an awesome dude.
I'm very much looking forward to that, and I know Josh is as well. But yeah, you just keep going back to it. It's that the rigorous approach, and being able to be calm and level-headed. So, like I said, that not being shot at,
right,
and knowing that everybody's going to go home to their families that evening, puts a different perspective on it. But you're still applying the principles of that rigorous approach, and just striving for elite execution. I keep going back to that, but it's
true, man. And today too we have Wade Benson speaking, right? And I had the privilege of catching up with him a little bit this morning, and the other thing about this space that I truly love and enjoy, and I think it's the reason that it keeps my ADHD mind locked into it, is just when you think you have it figured out, the
pivot,
whole new designs, whole
right.
new density capabilities at racks,
right.
and you guys, I would have to imagine, have to be very in tune with those things.
Big
right
time.
as everything's changing, because you guys are validating electrical, mechanical, everything within these spaces, and I have to imagine you guys stay up on that pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, scripts and commissioning and implementation plans are of all living, breathing documents.
Yeah.
Based on what design a facility is employing, or like I said, all this new technology, AI. We're having to rebuild a commissioning platform to adhere to what the AI sort of build will look like, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, the immersion liquid cooling is going to be another big aspect of it. And then, as you said, we're talking about what the power drain and the power suck on society, and where we're going to get all that power. And Josh spoke yesterday about overcoming the stigma of nuclear power. And so that'll be a whole new platform, right?
Definitely.
And that nuclear power stuff, I think that has to be part of one of the answers going forward. I mean, I don't think the general public realizes that at any given time there are 120 little nuclear reactors sitting off the coast on the Atlantic side, and probably another 120 sitting off on the Pacific side, and each one of those submarines is its own nuclear power plant.
That's
essentially.
Right. That's right. And you're 1,000,000% right. Like there's a stigma around nuclear energy, and in some degrees completely understandable, right?
Yeah.
Like what Chernobyl and what Fukushima, or
the 3 Mile Island, which Microsoft just bought.
I know, which I think that's great.
I do
you
too.
know what I mean? Because like we need to show people that this isn't the big scary monster that we think it is. Now, like,
it's not the Manhattan Project. We've got a good idea of what the heck is
exactly.
Right now, so.
It's just like anything, right? Like, I mean, take an automobile,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, sure, 60 years ago, when you didn't even have to put a baby in a car seat in a vehicle, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was unsafe.
Right.
You know what I mean? To your point, there are nuclear reactors all over the world.
Yeah.
All over the world. And the U.S. Navy is a great example of, like, if you do it right, there's nothing to be afraid of. You know what I mean? And we're, as an industry, at a really interesting point, a turning point, because, let's be honest. I mean, Northern Virginia is one location, but I mean, throw a dart on the map and you're more than likely going to hit a location that has power constraints.
Right.
And, luckily, the United States has a great backbone of natural gas, and we're going to have the ability to bridge that gap for a little while.
Mhm.
I mean, it's definitely not, going to be able to be the end all be all.
No.
I think it's going to have to be nuclear
Right.
and small modular reactors and things like that. But, we really have a couple of choices as a society, right? And it's, do I want to do it right, get the right regulations in place, and be able to utilize this amazing clean energy that we now have? Like, we have the ability
Yes.
to do it. Do we do that, or is Trent going to be okay with, hey man, you can only watch Netflix from 2 to 3:30?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you can only check out so many Facebook pictures at a time.
Right.
And we're really just at the beginning of
Right.
it. Like, when you think of like ChatGPT and things like that, like, I can assure you there are already things 100 times more powerful than ChatGPT.
Absolutely.
It's a technology that exists. We just simply don't have the means to deliver it to everybody yet.
It's that old thing, like any technology you're using right now, the military or NASA had it 20 years ago, right?
That's right.
So who knows what else is out there currently, that isn't offered to the bulk of society yet. But I was reading a book called Beyond the Sea a couple weeks ago, and this is something that just kind of blew my mind, and I can't think of the historical timeline, but having the Navy people sort of in charge of this move toward nuclear energy, they've had zero massive incidences and failures on using nuclear power,
100%.
which is just blows my mind.
It does, and
what a great track record.
100%. And like,
please let them be in charge.
I was in the military.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it ain't made up of all PhDs, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess in my case, maybe a public high school diploma, but it's the technology's there, the safe practices are there,
right?
And we have the ability to do it, and it's inevitable, right? I mean, the adoption of technology is inevitable. Everyone at some point wants something that is, one, going to make them more connected to the individuals that they don't get to be around all the time, but two, also, the applications are limitless.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, who wouldn't want a computer that maybe has the ability to one day cure cancer or things like this? And it's data centers, it's power, and it's people that we need to make those things happen. And
then it has to be on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
That's right.
So as the need for the power to keep these things live and to continue this technological evolution, we also have to evolve mentally and sort of acceptance of, hey, in order to do this, we're going to have to keep exploring other avenues. So, like I say, I think the nuclear power thing is a big answer for that stuff going forward. And I'm glad to see the topic being discussed more and more and brought to in the public eye of society, and say it's not as scary as you think it is.
It's not.
And you learn from mistakes. Obviously, these are those mistakes that we're pointing out to are massive critical events.
Yes. Yeah.
But if it had been a small sort of failure, maybe you don't learn as much, right? You learn from the biggest mistakes, I feel like. And it's just it's exciting to be a part of it, right? And
it is. You said something right there that, like, I think is key, and it's what we tell all of our people, like, failing, especially if you were involved in sports and things like that when you were younger, losing and failing was a bad thing, right? And nobody wants to fail or lose, but to your point, like, I'm a firm believer you can't learn how to be a good winner if you can't be a good loser.
Absolutely.
And
humility and learning from those mistakes.
That's it. You learn the most from making mistakes. And we tell all of our people, like, you're going to make mistakes, and we're going to stand behind you, and we're going to be 100% behind you. the only thing we expect is let's not make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
You know what
Exactly.
I mean? And I think the Navy nuke program's a great example of that, right? Like,
even as parents, man, you know, we were talking about all the sports stuff your kids have going on, and Ian's 8. He's starting to get into sports now. Actually, even chess. He's starting to learn how to play chess, but I'm not going to let him beat me.
Right.
I want him to.
That's right.
I want him to learn and earn it. I know when I would play one-on-one basketball with my dad growing up, when I finally was able to beat him one-on-one, it was because I learned from all the different things I tried that couldn't beat my dad in basketball. And then, that I earned that, and all those learning experiences that I, pulled together, and, collectively in my brain was like, let's do this the right way. It applies to so many things in life.
Yep.
And as you said, I like to say, you can't learn to win until you learn to lose, and do it with humility, and just, be a good person about it. It helps you. And when you win, it's so satisfying. And in our data center industry, winning means delivering a facility, putting a plan in place and executing it. When you see it all go smoothly, but that's just such a great feeling. And even if it takes some rough areas on projects, and by the time you get to we're doing a lot of the modular builds right now, right?
Yeah.
Small or quick hit, you should be able to, once you get a proper program in place, it should be rinse and repeat, especially at those smaller scales. But the first few builds, I can tell you right now, we're overcoming some hurdles in those first few builds. That's inevitable.
Yeah.
And now that we're kind of cranking out rolling out a model with a couple different people, that we're ready to just start implementing those programs at wherever you want. Hey, where do you want a small center?
Right.
Because now we've had our testing ground, we've had our training ground, and we're ready to just roll this out. So, it's the concept of failing up, right?
Yep. The modular thing has always been super interesting to me. I don't know, 6-7 years ago, I was doing work with CyrusOne, and when they first started, the containerized electrical room solution and everything, and now, you can slide in a whole containerized, racks, the whole 9 yards. And it's cool the way that
truly plug and play.
It is. Yeah. And that's what I truly genuinely like about this industry is there was a time maybe where people were set in their ways, and they're like, we're going to do it this way because this is the way switch centers did it, and that's the way it's always been. But the industry has gotten really good, in my opinion, about being like, you know what, there's probably other ways we can do this. There's probably ways we can deliver it quicker, and with the day and age that we live in, the space we're building right now is already sold, right? And it's like, so you have to find a way to continue to build quicker and more. And it's, I don't know, I feel like we've beat a dead horse a little bit, but it's just such an awesome space to be.
It really is. Like I say, and the adopting the new methodologies, and as we said earlier, you're gonna as all this new technology continues to roll out, we have to evolve and continue to find the better ways of doing things, or the first time ways of doing things in this sort of new world we're living in. Those checklists, and we keep coming back to it, Jesse, but the rigorous checklists, and not skipping forward. Don't do step 3 until you do steps 2 and 1. Even if you're like, I've got a little downtime here. No. That's not the military model. It's very, very rigorous and standard operating procedures that are adhered to, and that's how you experience success.
Definitely. With you and your transition throughout the space and everything like that, if you had any advice to anybody that's listening right now on how to get into the space, or just taking the chance of coming into the industry, right? What would you tell anybody?
That's it. Because when I was in finance and was just done with it, not meant to live in a cubicle and crank out the same spreadsheets day after day and week after week. And I took a flyer to come over to this industry. I've heard from a couple of people who had been in the industry a while, the BBPI guys.
Yeah.
Jeremy's up. And,
oh man.
And
Love
Kelly
those
Decker
guys.
and those guys. Yeah, they're fantastic, man. And that's another cool thing. I don't mean to pivot here, but
No, you're good.
There's so much work out there.
Yeah.
And you could play in the sandbox so nicely, and you end up helping each other out. There may be a job that we can't staff because of scheduling constraints.
Right.
I like to be able to, if my ultimate goal is to serve the client, I say, well, you go talk to my friends over here. Go talk to the guys at Iconics. And
is Matt still over there?
I believe so. Yeah, Marge is still there.
Yeah.
I actually ran into him on a plane a little while back, and I was heading up to Ashburn to check on some clients, and was going to talk to some new targets. And he and I ended up sitting right next to each other on the plane. And it was during the transition for Iconics, and I just said, "What are you heading up here for?" And he goes, "I'm going to see these." I said, "Okay, so it's business as usual. I'll adjust my schedule and not go, play where I'm not supposed to play right now." And he goes, "No, we may need y'all's help, as these projects continue to get big." So right there it is, a perfect example of it. But my advice would be to take a chance on yourself. Like I said, there's so many good people in this industry, and if you go to these shows, come to the DCAC, go to the 7x24s. I funded a couple of 7x24s by myself because I'd heard about 7x24 before, and that was before DCAC started.
Yeah.
But I went to 2 of those shows before I even had a job in this industry, just to talk to people and shake some hands and meet some folks and see where my fit was going to be. But you'll find out very quickly that, as we touched on earlier, people rotate around and haven't experienced it. So don't pigeonhole yourself into saying, "Oh, okay, I have some sort of electrical background, I have some sort of mechanical background." You may not find where you think the perfect fit is the first time around,
right?
But everything's so interconnected that you're not going to learn anything that's not going to help you down the road. So touching on so many areas is not a bad thing, right? If it's not your direct background, take that job, take that chance. You're going to meet some people, you're going to grow your network, you're going to learn about the industry, and you may find that there's something else that's exciting for you to do that you didn't even think of beforehand. So I don't know if it's generic advice or not, but just like I say, jump into it, man. Take a chance, and any role you find is going to benefit you
100%.
Down the road.
Man, I couldn't agree more. Like the first, like my first couple weeks in this industry, right? I was fortunate enough to get put on a program, and I was working obviously with Kirk at Nova at the time, and so here I am, and I'll do kind of a correlation with like the NFL. Like I was Mr. Irrelevant, right? The last draft pick of the draft, and here I am, within my first couple weeks, I'm sitting at a table with LD, with Laramie and JT and Kirk and Bill Mazzetti and Jim Smith, like all these people that, like, if you're not from this industry, just so you know, like that's the equivalent of being Mr. Irrelevant and sitting down with Joe Montana, Tom Brady, and you name it, you know what I mean? And I remember telling my wife a couple times, like I don't understand what's happening to me right now.
Yeah, no matter
awesome.
no matter where you're going, it's going to be drinking from a fire hose early.
100%.
Don't be overwhelmed. Don't doubt yourself, because it's like I say, it's all just building your blocks of knowledge that's going to help you throughout your career and whatever path you choose throughout the data center world. But yeah, I mean, dude, you'll find yourself very quickly in a room with heavy hitters eventually. It's inevitable.
It is. And what I think like has meant the most to me is like never at one point like not once.
Did anyone make you feel like you didn't belong?
Exactly. Have one of them sat there and kind of been like, who the hell is this dude? Like,
right.
Why is he here? You know what I mean? They've been like, hey, I'm so-and-so. How can I help?
Right.
Like, let's figure this out. You know what I mean? And I'm the kind of person, like, again, with the ADHD brain, like I had no idea what I wanted to do. I mean, I've been a volunteer firefighter. I went to nursing school. You know, like I've done so many different things. And then I got here and into this vertical. And, you know, I don't know if it was from sports or the military or what, or a combination of both, but like, this is the most cohesive team vertical environment that I think I've ever been part of.
It really feels like a family. Like you said, it comes full circle to what we were talking about right at the beginning here is when I came in, I was just calling on guys that were probably, you know, way above what who I needed to be calling, but no one made me feel like it was a bad thing that I was, you know, reaching out to these people. They just wanted to help and say, okay, I'm not the person you need to be talking to right now about this, but here's who you want to talk to. Here's the roles within an organization that you want to be reaching out to, because that's where your current role is going to touch this life cycle of this build.
That's right.
And it just, like I say, it just feels like a family. Every event, every project, everybody's in it for the same goal. And I could not be more thrilled and just feel so blessed and fortunate to have landed in this industry. So I'm all about heralding this when I talk to other people. Take a chance on yourself, get in here. And like I said, I really hope that there can be some more sort of targeted degrees and in the, if it's community college space, or even if it's the associate's degree at colleges or typical four-year universities, that will kind of guide you toward this, because you could take so many classes that are already part of general course and college education curriculum that will build sort of around what you need to have as your background knowledge.
Definitely. And I was fortunate enough, I got to speak at an event up in Ohio just a couple weeks ago. And the good thing is there's a lot of great people in our industry that are championing things like that, right? And trying to get it more mainstream. Like a conversation that we had there that I thought was really interesting is, you know, if you were to go into, you know, any elementary school today and, you know, ask kids, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Like it's and not that this is a bad thing. These are all great professions, but it's the same thing it was when I was a kid, and it's probably the same thing it was when you were a kid. You know, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a police officer. I want to astronaut. You know, you name it, right? Like one day I hope kids are like, you know, I want to build the sky for the cloud. You know what I mean? Right. And I want to help advance emerging technologies. And you know, honestly, I think technology itself is doing a great job at that, right? Like, you know, my son a couple years ago for Christmas got a toy that it's a robot, and you got to build the robot, and then you were playing a game on the computer. But what you don't realize while you're playing the game is you're writing the code for what that robot's going to do. And like this one would like back up and bump into it was an alarm clock that would like, it would just move back and forth and bump into your bed and make a noise until you woke up and stuff, you know? And so like,
into that.
There's a lot of cool things like that. And it's, you know, kids are so into technology, video games and everything like that today that I think if we were able to reach more kids when they were younger and say, hey, you know that Fortnite game you love to play all the time and you and your friends play it every weekend, that is all done through a data center and data consumption and power consumption. And it's just, it's finding a way to correlate it to things that they're very interested in, you know? And because, you know, when we were younger, you know, it was a really cool thing to see police officers and fire trucks and, you know, the space shuttles taking off into space and everything like that. But it's like,
do they realize the background of what's making those
Exactly.
industries a viable and obviously a necessary, very integral part of our society? But even those professions are relying on
1,000%.
the processing of data and data center technology to help them do their jobs better.
That's
and
right.
help better serve society. So ultimately, at the end of the day, data centers are serving society. And
that's right.
So we all travel a lot, and so there is time missed at home. But when Ian's he'll get bummed and go, "Oh, you're leaving town." You're like, "Yeah, but your homework or that iPad you're playing on, somebody's got to go make it happen, boy."
That's right. That's right.
And certainly not me making it happen, but if you just being a part of it. But it is cool to be able to point that out to him and have him sort of the light bulb turn on in his head and say, Rick said, no matter what profession or what you're interested in, it's the data center folks out there that are making it happen and making it happen faster and making it more accessible to them and more fun and all that good stuff.
Well, one thing that I try and tell people, and being a commissioning agent, this definitely applies, right? Like, if you're a young lady or a young man out there that isn't married, you don't have kids, you don't have necessarily roots dug in yet somewhere, man, how amazing are all the places we get to travel to? You know what I mean?
The fun aspect of it, just to get to see a lot of the country and interact with so many people, but also, if this is our pitch to young people to come in, how lucrative an industry career can be, because if you don't have those roots and you're early starting out, and ultimately everybody's going to gravitate toward having a family most of the time, but where you can really set yourself up financially if you don't have a whole lot of expenses at home and you're on the road working with different people and just making a pretty substantial amount of money at a young age. And then when the time comes and you have got that experience and more young people are coming in to fill the roles that you've been in, and you get to set some roots, well, you're pretty set up to provide for your family at a very high level, which is what we all want to do, right? Is
1,000%
leave this world a better place than when we inherited it, and have our kids have the lifestyle that we want to provide for them and move forward. So it's fantastic. I'll tell a real funny story with the CAI. And so it was toward the end of school last year, and the teacher was asking, what are your summer plans, all this good stuff. And Ian tells his teacher, well, my dad travels a lot. So we're going to go to the beach. We're going to do something, but my dad's on the road a lot. And so the teacher called my wife that afternoon, and she goes, Miss Vaden, I'm not really sure what your husband does for a living, but if he does work for the CIA, you may not want Ian telling everybody. She goes, no, it's CAI.
Dude. It is so funny.
Even though it's some secretive stuff, dude.
100%.
And I can't talk about it. And he's like, well, he doesn't really talk about it.
It is so funny you say that, because my wife, who is a saint, I got 4 kids, and she has allowed me to go build a career and done a really good job, at home with the kids and everything. But even still to this day, we will meet, new people or something. And, it eventually comes up as a topic of the conversation, what do you do? And blah, 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 blah. And my wife will be like, I'm not really sure
I still don't know
what he does. He claims that he builds data centers, but I think he either works for the cartel or the CIA, one of the two, because he's always going to crazy places and doing this or that. But it's true. It's things like that I do want younger people to know. I think you were at PTC this year. Right?
I was just getting ready to say that there's also the fun aspect of the work-life balance that we have, which makes it great. Because, as you said, Allison will say the same things. I'm not exactly sure what he does, but I know he plays a lot of golf and he goes to a lot of dinners.
That's right. I'm like,
babe, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you guys got second yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
Right?
It was a fun time, but it was that's the part of it. I think there's a really work hard, play hard aspect here.
There is.
Where we try to. I think everybody in this industry is great about it. From whether it's an employer standpoint or the employee standpoint, we know there's a work-life balance. And you said it earlier, not one day have I woke up and since I started in the data center industry and been like, oh, I've got to go to work today. Some days are more laborious on working on a proposal, getting a bid together,
Definitely.
negotiating a contract. Hey, we're in the throes of L4 right now, so it's going to be some heavy duty weeks to make sure we deliver here. But then what I would consider maybe the downtime is now it's back to some networking events, and it's the client engagement and client entertainment aspect of it. There's both sides of it, man. You see the really difficult weeks and long hours, and then there are the great events like DCAC and the 7x24s and the PTCs, and being able to take Allison to Hawaii.
That's it.
And then you'll hear people say, well, Hawaii, that must be tough. Well, I get that that's a huge perk of our job, but where else in the middle of January are you going to be able to attract that much talent and that many people that are C-suite level and decision makers? Might as well do it in Hawaii.
It's a genius idea.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
And it's the busy side of it and everything, like it's just like anything else. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. Like that's not, I think, what anybody is trying to portray. Like guys like us who have families and have younger kids, you do miss things. You know what I mean? Like there are things that you'll miss and there are sacrifices that you'll have to make, but like the way that I have always justified it in my mind, like I'm like second generation out of the coal mine, what I mean? And my whole family comes from Hazard and Harlan and everything like that. And maybe one or two people in my family have been college educated and things like that. But like the way I justify it is like, for me, my family didn't have the means to send me to college and get a degree and things like that. And, so I went the military route and like, but the way I justify is like, and I think the military is a great route and I will actually encourage my kids to go the military route. But if they don't, Dad's going to be able to provide a way for you to go to college too. You know what I mean? Like I justify missing things now as being able to open more doors for them as they get older.
Well said.
And this space is a great way to do it too. I mean, how many people do we know in this space that their brother or their sister or somebody, they've been able to get into this industry? Like Kirk and I talk all the time with Overwatch, like, one day it may be cool. One day, if his son or my son or, somebody sits in one of these seats here, and it's been a great space to get into.
Yeah.
And I've met people like you. I've met majority of people that I consider my friends in this space today. And it's just been a great experience. But, let's go back to you guys for a minute. Do you guys have some open roles you're trying to fill right now? And, have some things you're trying to get done?
Yeah.
And how can people, find a good place to apply for those things?
Sure. I mean, our DCX Agents is the website. You'll see a number of open roles on there. We post to LinkedIn a good bit about when we have a spot open. There's always spots open. I mean, as long as there's work that I can bid on, there are going to be spots open. You can find me on LinkedIn at Trent Vaden, and just reach out to me directly, and we can start walking through some of the stuff. But it's mechanical and electrical, those sorts of roles that are going to be heavy operational stuff. And I'm kind of fumbling here on what I'm trying to say, but all of our open roles are listed, but they're always going to be those same spots. And it's not going to be starting this date, but you'll see what the role requirements are. And all you have to do is reach out to me. We'll get in touch with Kirk Calhoun and Josh Hoops and start talking about where the needs will be from a regional perspective. But those electrical, mechanical, commissioning support roles are always open, and we're always ready to talk to people what we could do.
Perfect.
And that the path would be toward project management, right?
Yep.
And that's a wonderful accelerated path to success here. You got to learn the side of commissioning, get up to project manager where you can take care of both the mechanical and electrical side, and then ultimately you'll move up to a role of a project executive where you're going to have multiple PMs under you, and that's really bouncing around from job to job to job.
Yep.
But the entrance is that mechanical or electrical role.
Yep.
So
definitely. Yeah. And we already said, you guys got second in golf yesterday. Were you here for the comedians yesterday?
No, the traffic in Austin is unbelievable.
I know.
And it speaks volumes to you guys for having such great participation. I said you had 1,300 people this year.
Yeah.
I promise you 400 were at the golf course.
Oh,
yesterday.
100%. Yeah, I heard they doubled up and then had
tripled
a
up on a
with
few
the
holes.
triple.
So I mean, it was just fantastic participation and so many good people. But I wasn't able to get back to the comedian, but I've talked to a few people. There's the mothership. Comedy.
Yep.
I think I'm gonna have to bounce over there tonight and see some fun stuff.
It's a great show.
Just
man,
a great town to be in.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And there's a lot of cool things going on tonight. But man, we'll wrap this up and go down and have a drink and mingle with a few people. And I really appreciate your time. And,
Not Jesse,
thank you very much. No, man. Hey, it's my honor and my privilege, and appreciate your guys' support and you guys being here. And if you need any commissioning services, make sure you hit up Trent here in CAI, and we're going to get back to the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much, Jesse. I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody.